Chua welcome you. Many Dominion soldiers die. This is not cosmetronic. Chua teach you fighting. Excuse me, I had something caught in my throat there. Welcome to Wildstar Basics Combat. We're going to cover a few different things to help prepare you for combat on Nexus. We will be discussing 4 topics to help improve your effectiveness in combat. These 4 different topics are dodging red, interrupting enemies, breakout mechanics, and not dodging heals. The combat in Wildstar is very different from what you might be used to playing. So learning these 4 points will help you and your groups become more effective and make content easier. So are we ready?
Yeah!
Then let's begin. Some of you may be thinking, I have to move? And the answer is yes. Yes, you have to. While there are auto attacks that you can't dodge, there will be many attacks that show as red telegraphs that you can get out of and avoid taking damage from. While fighting, you will constantly have to move, aim, dodge, and adjust your positioning. Standing still will result in eating red telegraphs, which will result in taking unnecessary damage and can result in instant death. The telegraphs start out simple with specific patterns for the attacks. But as you level and progress through content, you will see new telegraphs added and old ones recycled that are made more complex. Now some of you may think, they show you where the attacks will be and you can get out of them? This will be too easy. Now to that I say, things can really ramp up and get crazy where it is not so simple. This clip here is a sample from an in-game fight. As you can see, the telegraphs become faster and more numerous as the fight goes on. So it is best while you are playing and leveling to pay attention to the telegraphs, learn the different patterns, and most importantly, get used to dodging out of those red telegraphs. Another thing that has to be talked about with red telegraphs is if you are a tank. Now if you're tanking, that doesn't mean you can just sit in all of the telegraphs and take all the damage. Now there will be some cleave telegraphs and a few others that you are supposed to sit in so that your group doesn't get hit by them. But a lot of the telegraphs you still need to move out of. It can put a major strain on your healer if you choose to sit in red all the time when it is completely unnecessary. Now let's move on and talk about interrupting enemies. Interrupting enemies is the cornerstone of combat in Wildstar. It is the difference between wiping repeatedly and crushing the content. Many mechanics in dungeons and raids require you to interrupt casts or you will wipe. Now what exactly is an interrupt? How do you interrupt an enemy? What happens when you do interrupt them? This is some of what we will talk about. First of all, what is an interrupt? An interrupt is any skill that says in the tooltip that it destroys interrupt armor. Now, what exactly is interrupt armor? Interrupt armor is the number shown on an enemy's portrait when you target them, and on their nameplates, and it lets you know how many combined interrupts it will take to make that enemy vulnerable for a stun. A lot of low-level and solo content enemies don't have a number because you can interrupt them or stun them right away. Enemies that have interrupt armor always require one more interrupt than the number shown, because you have to strip away that armor to make them vulnerable. Then you can stun them with an interrupt that specifies that it stuns in some manner. Now when you're playing solo, interrupting helps a lot, but it isn't absolutely needed. But when you are doing group content, you almost always need to have at least one interrupt, preferably more if you can. There are only a couple of fights in all of the endgame that you do not need interrupts. So a good rule of thumb is to always carry interrupts with you. Now sometimes when you're fighting a boss, you might notice that they have an interrupt icon, but instead of having a number inside of it, there will be a lock symbol or an infinity symbol. This means that they can't be interrupted at that time. You will have to wait until they cast a skill that is allowed to be interrupted. So why is it so important and game-changing to interrupt? What exactly does it do? Well, the main point of interrupting is waiting until an enemy is casting a skill, then interrupting them. Not only does interrupting a cast stop it so that the skill doesn't go off and it prevents group damage, but interrupting an enemy when they are casting puts them in a stunned state. This is called a moment of opportunity, or a moo. When an enemy is mooed, they take more damage. Taking advantage of this mechanic helps reduce party damage taken since the enemy is stunned, and it helps you melt the enemies down a lot faster. Now that is a lot to take in at once, I realize, but it is extremely important to learn about and master interrupts and moves. The next topic to talk about is Breakout Mechanics. Each form of breakout that you receive has some kind of counterplay. Now, ultimately you can just use a CC break skill to get out of it, but it isn't always practical to have a CC break with you, and most of the time it might be on cooldown anyways. Now, what are the different breakout types, and how do you use the breakout mechanics for them? The first one we'll look at is a blind, where your screen is made either black or white. Now if you notice, there is a little eye slit across the middle of the screen that you can still see out of. What you can do is you can position your camera around so that you can still see to a degree. Obviously it's not the same, but if lined up well you can still manage pretty good until this effect wears off. Knockdown is another breakout. When you are knocked down, you can lay on the ground the whole time until your character gets up on its own. Or you can make your character get up sooner by hitting your dash button. This expends one of your dash tokens to get your character standing sooner. Obviously, if you don't have any dash tokens left, you will have to wait until one replenishes over time, or you can wait until your character gets itself up. The next breakout is a stun. When you become stunned, there will be a timer that appears with an icon that displays the WASD keys. To get out of the stun, you can either sit there and wait for the timer to go down, or you can take advantage of the breakout mechanic by pressing and holding whichever key is shown in that icon to break the stun early. If you have rebound your movement keys, then it will show the keys that you have rebound to instead. Another breakout that happens is tether. Some enemies will put a tether on you where you can only move so far away in a circle from the tether. When you are tethered, you will see a beam going from you to the tether. Now to get free from the tether, you have to attack it. This will break you out and allow you to be freed. Disarm is another breakout you have to deal with. Now when you are disarmed, your weapon will be knocked away and you won't be able to attack. A line of sorts will be drawn from your character to your weapon. Now you can choose to wait for the effect to wear off and you'll get your weapon back again, or you can end the effect sooner by looking where your weapon went and then running over on top of it. Once you do this, you will automatically pick it up again and equip it. The last breakout to go over is Disorient. This one is devious. It randomly switches which way your movement keys move you. There is no pattern, and it is random every single time it happens. The best way to deal with disorient is to tap each key and figure out which direction they move you while this effect is taking place. Learning all these different breakout mechanics will help give you an edge over your enemies when they try to mess you up. Now the last thing we will talk about is not dodging heals. Like your attacks in the game, the majority of heals are freeform heals, which means that they must be aimed. Now not all of them are, but the majority of them are. So when you're doing group content, keep this in mind and keep your healers in mind, because it will make life easier on your healer and life better for you. The different classes have different ranges and limits with their heals. As we can see in this clip, the shapes and distances differ a lot between the heal classes. Spellslingers and espers have a long range, while medics have a short range that they can heal with. If you need heals, keep this in mind and don't be too far away from your healer. Also keep in mind that your healers will be dodging all of the attacks that you have to dodge too. So make their life easier and try to stick with them, and don't dodge roll or movement out of their telegraphs when your health is low and they're trying to heal you. Hopefully all of these tips were helpful to you and you will be able to use them to become better fighters and to help you contribute more and better to the groups you're in. Class dismissed!